Think about those moments when you're grappling with something new, trying to uh, wrap your head around a complex idea. It's like you're circling the answer, but you can't quite land on it.
Right.
Haven't you found that sometimes just talking it through with someone else, even if they're, not an expert, can be the very thing that makes it all click?
Oh, absolutely. It's like having a sounding board, isn't it?
Exactly. A sounding board that helps your own thoughts take shape.
That's a fantastic point. And that collaborative act of trying to understand something isn't just about getting answers. It's about how our minds work when we engage with others. It hints at a really fundamental aspect of learning that goes beyond just, hitting the books alone.
Which is exactly where we're heading in this deep dive. We're diving into a really interesting piece of research from 1998, a paper by Allison King titled Transactive Peer Tutoring, Distributing Cognition and Metacognition. Now, that title might sound a bit academic, maybe a mouthful.
Yeah, a little bit.
But the ideas inside are incredibly relevant to anyone who wants to learn more effectively, whether on their own or, well, with others.
And what we want to really understand today is this specific model of peer learning that King describes. Our mission, really, is to explore how learning with a peer, when it follows a certain structure, can dramatically improve your understanding. And what's particularly fascinating, I think, is that this can lead to new insights, even creating new knowledge, even if you and your learning partner start off at like a similar level.
Right. The paper puts forward this really compelling idea, almost a shift in perspective. Learning isn't solely an internal individual thing. It can actually be spread out, distributed between people, and even across the tools and resources we use.
It's like a person plus partnership.
Exactly. A person plus learning team where your cognitive abilities get a real boost from these external elements. Okay, so let's really dig into this concept of distributed cognition, maybe starting with some of the foundational theories that underpin it.
Yeah, good idea. What's truly insightful here is to trace the roots back to sociocognitive theories, particularly the work of Vygotsky. His core idea was that our higher-level cognitive functions aren't just, like, innate. They develop through social interaction. Knowledge isn't simply absorbed. It's actively constructed through shared activities and, well, talking with others.
That's right. Vygotsky and his colleagues really emphasized how our thinking skills grow out of these social interactions. Think about a child learning to tie their shoes. Initially, a parent guides their hands,
Yeah.
right, showing them each step.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of hands-on assistance and verbal guidance is what Rogoff called guided participation, where a more knowledgeable person mediates the learning.
And that specific kind of tailored support, adjusted to where the learner is actually at, that's what we call scaffolding. As the learner gets better, that supporting person gradually steps back, letting the learner take on more responsibility. Rogoff described this beautifully as the learner appropriating the knowledge and the process, not just memorizing steps, but really internalizing the skills, like owning how to tie their shoes.
So it's like they're borrowing the expertise from the guide until they can do it themselves. And the paper highlights how this initial other regulation being guided eventually leads to self-regulation, where you can manage your own learning. And a crucial element in all of this is language, isn't it?
Absolutely. Language is the primary tool here. The explanations, the prompts, the discussions during scaffolding, these are often repeated and internalized by the learner. That external dialogue essentially becomes inner speech. That voice in our heads when we're thinking through a problem.
Right.
So the language and the reasoning demonstrated by the guide become integrated into the learner's own cognitive toolkit.
Okay. So we're starting to see how knowledge and skills develop through these social interactions. Now, let's zoom in on this idea of cognitive partnerships. It sounds like it takes that social aspect and focuses more on the shared thinking involved.
Exactly. If we connect this back to that broader idea of distributed cognition, Perkins talks about thinking itself as being distributed within a cognitive partnership. It's not just teacher to student. It's a shared intellectual endeavor. We see this everywhere, like you said, parent and child with a toy, an apprentice and master.
Colleagues brainstorming.
Right, colleagues brainstorming. The thinking needed isn't just in one person's head, it's shared across the individuals involved.
And the person plus concept takes this even further, doesn't it? It's not just about people interacting.
Precisely. Think about all the external stuff we use to think: calendars, lists, calculators, even how our desk is set up. P argued that knowledge and even intelligence can be, in a sense, loaded into these external things.
Loaded into them.
Yeah, they become tools that actively shape and support how we think, helping us organize, manage complexity, extend our memory. So in a person-plus partnership, thinking is distributed not only between people, but also across these external cognitive resources in our environment.
That makes a lot of sense. Like
Huh.
a scientist using complex lab equipment, the equipment itself embodies knowledge and guides their thinking, right?
Exactly.
Now, this brings us to the core of King's paper, transactive cognitive partnerships, specifically with peers. How does this differ from that expert novice thing or just a general cognitive partnership?
Well, what's particularly insightful here is the shift towards a more balanced and reciprocal dynamic. In peer partnerships, especially when they're at a similar ability level, the power dynamic is more egalitarian.
Hmm.
Cognition isn't just shared, it's distributed more evenly.
Okay.
It's not just one guiding and the other receiving, it's mutual appropriation, where both partners actively contribute and learn from each other, sharing the cognitive load. Think of it like a two-way street.
And this is where the term transactive becomes really important, right? It means something specific.
Exactly. Transactive learning emphasizes the deeply reciprocal and interdependent nature of these interactions. What one person says or does directly builds on the other and shapes what happens next. It's dynamic.
Back and forth.
Yeah, like one person asks a question, the other explains. That explanation might lead to a follow-up question, and so on. The whole learning activity is co-constructed by the partners and the task itself.
The paper uses that really helpful analogy, transactive memory, in a marriage. Can you elaborate on that? Why is it useful here?
It's a brilliant analogy, actually. Wagner used transactive memory to describe how couples develop a shared system for remembering stuff. Instead of each trying to remember everything, they rely on each other for different bits of shared experiences or knowledge.
Right, like you remember the bank details, I'll remember birthdays.
Kind of, yeah. And when they need to recall something, they often do it collaboratively. Transactively, one partner's prompt triggers the other's memory and back again. So memory itself gets distributed within the couple.
So in peer learning, it's like our understanding of a topic becomes distributed between us, and we rely on each other to fill gaps and build a more complete picture together. The paper mentions kids working together in class as a transactive cognitive partnership.
Precisely. When children collaborate, their individual skills, knowledge, ways of thinking, it's all distributed across the group. They become reliant on each other for different pieces, different approaches, different perspectives. The scaffolding becomes mutual and dynamic. That constant back and forth, that interdependence, that's what characterizes a transactive cognitive partnership.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly promising, but the paper also raises some real concern about just, throwing peers together and hoping for deep learning, especially if they're at a similar level. What are some of the challenges?
That's a crucial point. If they're really at a similar level, where does the new learning come from? It's a valid question. The paper points out that traditional unstructured peer learning often just stays at the surface, checking comprehension, maybe rehearsing facts.
Like flashcards?
Yeah, stuff like that, which has its place, but the paper argues we need approaches that foster higher level stuff, critical inquiry, negotiating interpretations, collaborative problem solving.
And it's not just about the cognitive side, is it? There are social, practical things too.
Exactly. Sometimes there's resistance to cross-ability tutoring. Parents might worry their high-achieving kids get slowed down.
Even though the tutors often learns the most.
Right. Research shows that. And even in mixed groups, social dynamics, status differences can pop up. More dominant students might take over, hindering real collaboration. Plus, and this is key, learners often lack expertise in the process of learning itself. They might not know how to guide, question, and support each other effectively.
So just pairing up students isn't always the magic bullet. There needs to be some kind of structure, some guidance in the process. Which brings us to the AS to Think Tell WI model, the main focus of King's paper. Can you give us the overview?
Okay, so the ASK to Think Tell WIY model is presented as a specific, carefully designed peer tutoring approach. It aims to tackle those limitations and facilitate higher-level learning among same-ability peers. It's explicitly designed as that person-plus cognitive partnership we talked about, intentionally distributing both cognition, the thinking, and metacognition, the awareness and regulation of that thinking.
And the crucial thing, like you said, is that the partners don't need to be content experts right away.
That's precisely right. The real strength here is that even if they don't know the subject inside out initially, they can develop expertise in the process of learning together. The model gives them a clear framework, a structured way to engage with the material, make sense of it collaboratively, and build on each other's understanding. So it's as much about learning how to learn with a peer as it is about the content itself.
Okay, so how does this Ask, Have, Think, Tell, the PyBUI model, actually work? What are its core components?
Well, it's built around several key elements. First, structured reciprocal tutoring roles. One partner is the questioner they ask to think, And the other is the explainer they tell WHY. These roles are explicitly rotated, which is crucial for that mutuality and shared responsibility.
So they switch back and forth.
Exactly. One asks, the other explains for a bit, then they swap.
And it's not just asking random questions, is it? There's an emphasis on creating a good communication vibe.
Absolutely. The model stresses supportive communication. Active listening, giving thinking time like 5-second wait is often suggested.
5 seconds, that can feel long.
It can, but it's important. Also, giving feedback on accuracy and just general encouragement to keep things positive.
So the questioner isn't just testing, they're actively guiding the thinking.
That's a perfect way to put it. The model uses cognitive coaching through specific types of quals. They're deliberately designed to guide the explainer towards deeper understanding, prompting them to articulate reasoning, elaborate, and monitor their own comprehension.
And the paper breaks these down into 5 types. Can you walk us through them?
Sure. First, review questions. Basic stuff, checking understanding, activating prior knowledge, like what does E mean?
Okay.
Then, thinking questions. These go beyond recall, integrating concepts. What's the difference between X and Y? Or how does A relate to B?
Got it. More connections.
Exactly. Third, probing questions, used for clarification or more detail. Tell me more about that, or can you give an example?
Okay, digging deeper.
Fourth, hint questions. If the explainer is stuck, you give a clue, not the answer. Have you thought about?
Gentle nudges.
Right. And finally, metacognitive questions. Thinking about thinking. How did you figure that out? Or what strategy did you use? Promotes self-awareness.
And the explainer's role, the TL do YY part, that's not just about giving the answer either.
No, definitely not. The tell why procedure emphasizes explaining the reasoning, the why, and the how. It encourages linking to prior knowledge, paraphrasing in their own words. Constructing that explanation is a powerful way to solidify understanding.
Because you really get it.
Exactly.
And how do these question types usually flow in a session? Is there a set order?
There's a general progression, though it's dynamic. Often starts with review questions to get on the same page, then moves to thinking questions. Probing and hint questions come in as needed, and metacognitive questions are woven throughout to encourage reflection.
The paper also mentions the structure of a typical session. Sounds quite organized.
It is. It provides a clear framework. Usually, partners first individually generate their own review and thinking questions from the material. Gets them engaged individually first. Then they decide who goes first as questioner. Then they follow the question-answer sequence using the different questions, the tell LWY explanation, and then they switch roles after a set time or number of questions. And importantly, they often use a simple prompt card.
Ah, the prompt card.
Yeah, like an index card maybe. Outlines the process, the roles, even gives question starters for each type. It's a constant reminder.
That prompt card seems really practical. How does it fit into this whole distributed cognition idea?
It's a perfect example. The procedure itself, the steps on the card, they embody a certain intelligence, as P might say. It's an external structure that guides their activity, scaffolds the process.
Oh, so?
Well, the reminder to start with review questions ensures they build from basics. Turn-taking reinforces reciprocity. The question-response pattern keeps it focused. The sequence guides them to higher-level thinking.
So the card is like an external cognitive aid managing the process initially.
Precisely. It's a temporary external cognitive resource. It reduces the cognitive load. They don't have to remember how to do it. They can focus on the learning and the interaction. Even the TTEL WHY acronym on the card distributes the definition of a good explanation.
And the clear roles, questioner, explainer, that helps distribute the effort too.
Absolutely. By defining the roles, the cognitive load is shared. The questioner focuses on asking good questions, listening, probing. The explainer focuses on articulating understanding, reasoning clearly. Each gets to practice specific skills.
And the questioner acts like a coach.
Right, a cognitive coach, guiding the explainer's knowledge construction. Meanwhile, both are learning through mutual appropriation, negotiating meaning. The questioner monitors understanding to ask good follow-ups, and those metacognitive questions prompt self-monitoring for both.
So it's distributing the thinking about the content, but also the awareness of that thinking, the metacognition. How does the model distribute that?
Metacognition is supported and distributed in a few ways. Initially, the teacher model's effective questioning and explaining, that's an external model of executive functions. And the prompt cards with the process reminders, roles, question starters, they also distribute those executive functions at first. They provide structure to manage their learning during the interaction.
But the goal isn't for them to rely on the cards forever.
Yeah.
Right? They should internalize this stuff.
Exactly. It's intentionally temporary scaffolding. The model encourages learners to gradually take over these self-regulatory functions. Even early on, they have choices, like which questions to ask. As they get more proficient, reliance on the cards and teacher modeling decreases. They start internalizing the strategies.
Okay.
Plus, that cooperative social environment fostered by the communication skills, that's also initial external regulation that gets internalized.
This sounds like it could really empower learners, foster that self-regulation ability, which is so key for, well, everything.
Absolutely. Peer tutoring generally gives students more ownership. This model, by distributing thinking this way, avoids the mini-teacher problem. The questioner directs the discussion via questions, but reciprocal roles mean both experience being in control.
Hmm.
The transactive nature empowers the pair to direct their learning. As mastery grows, reliance on external supports drops, leading to individual self-scaffolding and, empowerment.
Hmm.
By initially distributing the load, learning the stuff, and managing the learning, it makes the whole thing less overwhelming.
So it sounds good in theory, but does the research show it actually works? Does it improve learning?
Yes, the paper does cite research findings showing it's effective. It promotes deeper knowledge construction, like making inferences, integrating information, and also helps transfer that learning to new situations.
Oh, transfer is huge.
It is. And they saw these positive results in studies with 7th grade science students and 4th grade social studies students using the model.
That's really encouraging. Suggests this structured peer learning can be a genuinely powerful tool.
Absolutely. The key takeaway really is that structured peer learning, like Ask Kate to Think, Tell WHY, harnesses collaboration to deepen understanding and even build new knowledge, even with peers at a similar level. The power is in the process, how the cognitive tasks are distributed.
Between the learners and the environment, like the cards.
Exactly.
And it sounds like the benefits go beyond just the subject matter.
Hmm.
Developing learning skills, fostering that sense of control, invaluable stuff.
Totally. It's about becoming a more effective, collaborative, and ultimately a more self-directed learner.
So as you reflect on this deep dive, think about how you might apply some of these principles yourself. Tackling something new, discussing complex topics with colleagues. Think about structured questioning, reciprocal explanation, distributing the effort. What kind of simple prompt card could you create for your own deep dives? To guide interactions and share the load, it's a fascinating prospect, isn't it?